Welcome to The Brain Drain, the show in which we ask a panel of experts questions such as, if the Conservatives do close all the mines, what will they throw Norman Lamont down? And in diplomatic terms, how should the Queen have addressed Helmut Kohl? As Chancellor Kohl or hello, you big fat German pig? So let's meet the panel. Here they are. Tony Hawks, who's occupying his usual position, sitting on my left hand. It's the only pleasure he gets these days. Sitting on his left hand, it's in their contract, is Sandi Toksvig. Next to him, a man who for years has had them rolling in the aisles. In fact, he was the worst orange packer safer he's ever had. KYTV's Geoffrey Perkins. And finally, a comedian whose 2-hour stand-up routine has been hailed as the funniest minute and a half on the club circuit today, Frank Skinner. Ladies and gentlemen, the panel. And don't forget, panel, there's a special prize for the panellist who stays to the end of the show without going home. OK, so let's have our first question now. Is there a Anne-Marie Robinson? Hello. Love points of view, by the way. What's your question for the panel?
OK. The economy is in dire straits. Have you any advice for the Chancellor for raising or saving money? Right.
Any advice for the Chancellor? Well, he's a big fan of the show, so I know he'll be watching. This and Blind Date he likes. OK. Frank, kick us off.
Well, something they've been talking about for years, of course, is legalising prostitution and then getting tax from that. Apparently, a German bloke wrote, I know, that he said in Germany, prostitution's a way of life. Going into a brothel is just like going into a bank. I don't know what their cash points look like, but anyway. And this is absolutely true. In Hungary, in 1956, what they did is they arrested all the prostitutes. Apparently, they charged them with being receivers of swollen goods. Thank you. And all the crowds turned. But I'm carrying on. And they were all... that's my catchphrase. And they were all retrained as cab drivers. It's absolutely true. Well, nowadays, because of the recession, nobody gets cabs anymore. So what they should do is retrain all the cab drivers as prostitutes. Now, the ex-minicab prostitutes would be a bit cheaper, but the trouble is they wouldn't know where anything was, would they? I think I better leave it there.
Yeah. I'm not going down there at this time of night, Gov.
Yes. South of the liver.
Geoffrey, do you want to raise the tone?
I think he could get his hands on some pension funds. This is always a good wheezer raising money. Or he could send the videos of his speeches promising that the recession is just about to end to Jeremy Beadle in the hope of winning £1,000 for the funniest cock-up.
Sandi?
Well, Norman, if you're watching, my advice to you is if you do go to Sainsbury's and you take a bag back, you get a penny each time.
I think we're probably talking about bigger savings than that.
Oh, sorry. OK, well, I think that they could use, for example, they could use less traffic cones on the motorway and have more people actually fixing the motorway. I think that would be... I think there should be a wobble tax, which is a special tax on people who wear exercise clothing and are unfit. That would be good. The Americans call it spandex abuse, and you know, they got born to run on their chests, and it really should say born to eat buns, you know. Very unpleasant. I think a special tax on those people raises a lot of money.
Fine, fair enough. Tony?
Well, when Norman Lamont goes to dinner with other heads of state and finance ministers from abroad, he shouldn't have a starter.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Just have the main course. No pudding as well.
No.
And also, I think he should take a packed lunch to the House of Commons. Little Tupperware box, eat it on the front bench.
Yeah.
You know, egg sandwiches, club biscuit, an apple, that sort of thing. Really put the others off, wouldn't it?
Sounds nice.
And a new tax, I think, a controversial new tax he should bring in. The penis tax for men, obviously. I think £100 an inch. This would brilliantly be the only tax where people would deliberately pay more than they actually
Yes. Certainly, that would certainly set me back 50 quid. All right.
It's a good idea that men should pay it, because women have been taxed by penises for years, haven't they?
Oh, Sandi. Oh, for God's sake. OK, over to our audience now. Is there a Mary Jane Hill here?
Yep.
OK, hello. What's your question for the audience?
What would you give your right arm to see?
What would you give your right arm to see? Well, some people use their right arm more than others, of course. Sandy, I'm on safe ground here. Sandy, what would you give your right arm to see?
Someone who looks good in a shell suit. I think that would be interesting. And as Jimmy knows, a female quiz show host, I think, would be a terrific...
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. Right, we'll move on. Enough of that. Geoffrey.
I think we could see some reality in ads. I think that it would be nice to see the last of the Gold Blend ad series, where they finally get round to having a shag. And he turns to her and says, "I'm terribly sorry, it's never happened to me before. It must be all that coffee I drank."
Oh, we all would, Frank.
I'd like to see a Robin Hood film where the sheriff's men are going through the forest and Robin Hood blokes all in Lincoln Green jump out the bushes and attack them, and one of the sheriff's men says, "You just wait till autumn." And I'd love to see a bus driver crane round and look at the passengers and say, "Look, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but I notice in my rear view mirror that there's someone running for the bus, and obviously I don't want him to miss it."
Yeah. You're living in a dream world.
Oh, it's a complete dream world. And, of course, Madonna's new book, but as you say, if you're given your right arm, that'd be a bit of a waste of money.
Tony.
Well, I would like to see someone running for a bus, naked, who pays £3,400 in penis tax. I'd also like to see someone making a withdrawal at a bottle bank. The other thing I'd like to see, I think, is to do with adverts as well. There's an advert on the telly for tights, and there's a girl who's got her legs are the hands of a clock, and they move round the clock rather nicely. I'd rather like to see her at 3:15.
Good. And now a quick fire round from me. It's a photo round. Geoffrey, what are they saying to each other?
Now, these 500 crucifixes, do you want them plain or do you want them with a little man on them?
Letters to Geoffrey Perkins.
Or, "I'm bored, shall we tear up another picture of Sinead O'Connor again?"
Right, Sandy.
No, I think the one priest is saying, "So that's everything, apart from the blow-up priest for Sister Bernadette." Or, "So we're agreed, pickles fancy in the 2:30 at Newmarket."
Frank?
I think the nun on the right is saying, "If the drug squad search these bags, we're in big trouble, Elvis." Or the one on the left could be saying, "Of course I love you, Edna, but you must never tell anyone that I'm the Bishop of Galway."
Tony?
I think the one on the left is saying, "Honestly, the trouble we have to go to now they've made train spotting illegal." Or the one on... They've both taken vows of silence, and the one on the left is writing, "Look, just shut up, will you?"
Right. Thank you, panel. I have to stop you there. At the end of that question, Geoffrey has been in to ease himself out in front. OK. I've got a letter here. It's from a Liam Coslett of Devon, and he writes, "Can the panel suggest any new game shows they would like to see on television?" Sandy?
I think there'd be quite an interesting game show to be had called That's My Pigeon.
Is this going to be very rude?
No, not at all.
OK,
It would involve the much-neglected sport of pigeon racing. And what would happen is you'd have, you know, a celebrity person with their pigeon and an ordinary person with their pigeon, and they send the pigeons off for a race, and then you'd have to wait for about an hour till they came back, and you could just sort of do colouring in, I think. Maybe they could have a cup of tea and a chat, you know, and then the pigeons would come back and somebody would win.
Yeah.
And then the person who's won would go, "That's my pigeon." I think it would be really
I think
good.
it sounds very good, yeah. And B-Sky B will sign you up immediately, I think. All right. Geoffrey.
You could do a new version of Challenge Annika, where when you meet her in the street, you challenge her to a fight.
All right, Tony.
Perhaps Meltdown instead of Countdown. First game show set in a nuclear reactor. I think that'd be fun. Or a game called Blimey, That's a Bit of a Nightmare, where the contestant has to hitchhike through Europe with Jeremy Paxman. You can see that working. And one called That's My Beard, in which 5 bearded men come on, shave their beards off, and have to try and pick theirs out from 5 different piles of stuff.
Tune into that. Frank.
I'd like to see Frank Boff present the Degeneration game. Or perhaps better still, Frank Boff presents Whose Line Is It Anyway? Think about it.
A couple of cocaine users in the audience there.
And I remember Keith Chegwin used to do a programme called Cheggers Plays Pop. You remember that? And I'd like to see that, a one-off one of those brought back, filmed in a decompression chamber called called Cheggers Goes Pop.
OK, right. Over to our audience now. Is there a Sarah Carruthers in tonight? Evening, Carruthers. What's your question, please, for the audience?
OK, my question is, there wasn't a Queen's speech to open Parliament this session, but if there had been, what would you have written for her to say?
Right. Tony, what would you put in the Queen's mouth?
No.
You're trying to put words into my mouth.
No, certainly not.
Well, first of all, if I was going to write a speech for the Queen, I'd demand a big change of image from her, frankly. I mean, she's got to get more hip. So lose the crown, first of all. They went out 500-600 years ago. Get yourself a baseball cap. Say yo a lot. And instead of doing the royal wave, give it a bit of that. My husband and I, yo! And then also, she needs to start a speech with a gag. I mean, she never tells jokes, the Queen. Not once has she done one good old-fashioned British joke. I mean, she's given birth to a few, admittedly.
OK. Sandi.
Well, I think it'd be quite good to have a speech with blanks in it so the government can kind of change its mind, which they're quite keen on. So she could say, you know, this year interest rates will blank, and then they can fill in, you know, up, down, staying the same, whatever they like, or in the blank industry, we will be blank 30,000 jobs, and then it could be, you know, create, destroy, whatever it is, you know. She did for all speeches, you know, my son Edward is a blank.
That's what we've heard, anyway.
Yeah, so
Geoffrey.
I now declare this hospital closed. That's what
I mean, it's actually coming up, that sort of line of work, isn't it? Frank?
I'd like to see her doing a bit of alternative comedy, in fact, a bit of observational comedy by the Queen. So she could say stuff, you know when you open the newspaper, right, and your daughter-in-law's tits are in it, right? I hate that. I really hate that. Anyone in from Windsor? Yeah, and...
OK, panel, concentrate. I'm going to play in some sound effects now, and I'd like you to tell me what is going on. Frank, here's one for you.
Yes. I think this is, in fact, the last track on Marvin Gaye's Greatest Hits. Oh, yes, here they come. And the sickos are bringing up the rear in the audience.
That's in fact what I've got written down on this card, so there we go. All right. Geoffrey. Easy one for you.
Yes, this is George Best putting out the empties.
Nearly. Just hear it again. I think you'll hear it differently. That is in fact Frank Boff getting dressed in the morning. Yeah. Just threw something on. Tony. obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's
This
that?
is the new pacemaker from Disney.
Very, very close. Just hear it again. That's the mafia paying a call on sweep. Sandy, you can bring up the rear here. Any ideas?
I think it's Annika Rice on a particularly difficult challenge.
Yes?
It could just be Norman Tebbit relaxing.
Yeah. Well, either of those are certainly a lot funnier than what I've got written down here, so you win that round. OK, well done, panel. Right, OK, moving right along now. Is there a Randy Cohen, or is... Sorry, I'll rephrase it. Is there Randy Cohen in the audience? Right, Randy, that is your real name, is it, Cohen?
Honest to God,
Right,
yes.
fine. Not just advertising. All right, fine. Right, what's your question, please?
What can we learn from the animal kingdom?
What can we learn from the animal kingdom? Well, it's got to be Sandy.
Thank you so much. Well, obviously, I think the Conservatives have learnt everything they can from lemmings. I think they've... I think a lot of men would like to learn how dogs lick certain parts of their body. I think the main creatures that we can learn from are dolphins, to be honest with you. I mean, it was fantastic that just by swimming backwards, Flipper could tell you that two boys were trapped in a mine shaft.
Tony.
Right, learn from the animal kingdom. Hibernation, I think, is a good thing. I mean, I'd like to do that as soon as the clocks go back, jump in a big cardboard box and not wake up till mid-April. That would be very good. Two advantages in this is that you'd probably lose a bit of weight and you'd save a fortune in Christmas presents as well. And the other things we can learn is not to be so formal when we say hello to people. You know, we should learn to sniff people's bottoms. Something I do. Gets frowned on in some circles, but it's worth pressing.
Frowned on? Well, you're very lucky then. It's just being frowned on. Right, Jeff?
Well, the elephant makes love every 3 years. I'd like to work my way up to that.
Yeah? Don't knock it, Frank.
What can we learn from the animal kingdom? How to look good on a BAP, I think, is that's one thing. Split the audience right down the middle there. Some people clapped and some people went, oh, no, I've had enough of that. What else? I think that the mandrill, apparently, the mandrill ape, his face looks exactly like his genitals. It's true, and they use that to attract the female, something that Rod Stewart's already picked up on. And I think something I'd learned from my dog, breaking wind and then looking very startled, I think. And then slightly accusingly at other people in the room.
All right, all right, all right. I'm losing the will to live. Enough. And I can see now that Frank is streaking ahead. Over to our audience now, who are now on a drip. And a question from Barry Wolfe. Hello, Barry. What's your question, please?
Which is the worst heckle you've ever had to deal with or heard about?
All right. Tony, I've seen your act. You must have dealt with a few heckles in your time.
I have, actually, yes, and I'm very good at them, you know, very good at dealing with them. I was once doing a K-Bon at a comedy club, and this bloke shouted out, "Oi, mate, you've got a big nose." And brilliantly, I came back with, "Yes, I suppose I have." He didn't mess with me again, I'll tell you.
Is that it, then?
That's it.
All right, fine. I was going to heckle you then, but you stopped. Sandy?
Well, the most legendary heckle, I think, down at the Comedy Store was a young comic who was doing a long routine about Star Trek that was getting no laughs at all, until somebody from the back of the store said, "It's comedy, Jim, but not as we know it." My own worst heckle that I ever had was I was once reading the lesson at school and somebody shouted out, "I don't believe you."
Geoffrey?
When the film Carrie first opened, there's a scene right at the end of it where the girl Carrie causes all the knives in the whole kitchen to rise up and all thud into her mother. Hundreds and hundreds of knives, and this goes on for about 5 minutes. And then there's a pause, and somebody in the back of the cinema shouted, 180!
Frank.
This is absolutely true. I once got heckled by a blind bloke in the audience, and he shouted out, "Get off your brummy git, has he gone yet?" It's true. But I'm on tour with a bloke called Al Murray at the moment, and he does an act with lots of gun impressions.
You've got a plug-in then for your tour.
And he does gun impressions, and he's just done the Cologne Festival, right? And he told me that he did all these gun impressions in Cologne. And he said to the audience, he said, now, usually in England when I do this act, I get booed when I shoot the animals and stuff. But here, you all love it. You Germans, you just want to kill everything. And this voice from the back of this massive hall went, "Careful."
What was a Welshman doing in that audience?
Yeah.
Right, I have to heckle you there. Get off. Thanks for your question very much, Ben. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, and that's not the end of the show, but our world-famous celebrity question. This week we're thrilled to welcome the only thing we've exported to Japan for 25 years, Gary Lineker. Welcome. Nice to see you, Gary. When are you off to the Far East?
End of February.
All right. Why are you going to play football over there in Japan?
It's always been my ambition to score a header. Thought I've got a great chance there.
Yeah. We're all 4'6" over there. OK. We'll send this tape over to Japan, actually. That'll just upset them. OK, fine. Right. Gary, what's your question, please?
My question is, it really concerns the new rule in football is the one where you're not allowed to back pass to the goalkeeper and he's not allowed to pick it up. I wondered if the panel had any ideas for new rules in the game that might just improve it.
Right. A football question. Frank, any new rules that might improve football?
I actually discovered a rule that apparently has been around for ages and has been kept secret by the football establishment, and that is if you go to the FA and you can prove that at school you were the class wimp, the one who wore short trousers till he was 15 and wore glasses with a plaster over one lens, right? Then they have to make you, by law, a linesman. They can't... But as for new, I think any goalkeeper who wears one of those new shirts that look like they've got coloured felt pen all over them, then it's a penalty straight away, right? I also think that Notts Forest should be sponsored by Pontins because their season ends in October as well.
Geoffrey?
I think that goalkeepers should be encouraged to let opponents score for themselves and not punch the ball into their own nets. A couple of Leeds fans in the audience. And I think that it would be, good to help commentators, always straining for ways of describing people, like, you know, Grobbelaar was like a piece of elastic and Mulby was like a solid rock. I think we should allow them to take hallucinatory drugs so that they can say things like, up front, Rush was, for me, a large green insect, while Whelan was a carrot in a top hat. That would be good.
I thought he was a carrot in a top hat. Tony?
At the end of internationals, when you exchange shirts, the players exchange shirts with the other players, they should exchange addresses as well and keep in touch. You know, dear Vinny, I'll be out in 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks for the flowers.
Yeah, Sandy.
You're to do with football, are you, Gary?
You don't know anything about football, do you?
I don't. I know that
you should be in charge of the England team.
No,
yeah.
no.
Right.
I thought Gary was a play in the West End. I got rather confused. You know that thing that they have at the end that they call the penalty shootout? Well, couldn't we just have that and miss all the rest of the game? I do think that when you have to... I don't know why you do it. Sometimes you stand like that, don't you? Or not do in a row. You stand like... You should be told to keep still. There's a lot of jiggling goes on. It's very off-putting. Also, I think you could cover more of the net if you didn't hold like that. You had your arms up like this, and you employed a lot of midgets to come on and hold for you. That would be quite good. I also think there should be a law that old footballers should not be allowed to comb their hair up over like that.
All right, Gary, was that any help to you at all?
That's some good ideas. I just think we're going in the right direction, though, with the, you know, goalkeepers aren't allowed to use the hands. Centre-halves should be the next one, not allowed to use the heads.
Right. All right, Gary, thanks for coming. Good luck in Japan.
Thank you.
Right, I've got a poetic question now from me. Could you complete the following verse, panel? Your eyes are like the stars at night. They shine like pools of dew. Sandi.
Oh, thanks. Your eyes are like the stars at night. They shine like pools of dew. I'd like to make wild, mad love, but I need to do a poo. Because it puts you off, doesn't it, Jimmy? It puts you, if you've got one just waiting, you know what I mean? You
That's
can't.
beautiful.
You can't.
That's beautiful. I should set that to music and give it to Sarah Brightman immediately. Been singing shit for years. All right. Geoffrey.
Your eyes are like the stars at night. Yes. They shine like pools of dew. Just above your extra nose. I wonder how that grew.
Frank?
Your eyes are like the stars at night. They shine like pools of dew. But they went all misty when Linford Christie jogged down your street with his meat and two.
Right, Tony.
Your eye... Oh, your arse. Your arse.
No, it's... Tony, it begins your eyes...
Right, yeah. Your eyes are like the stars at night. They shine like pools of dew, but I'm prepared to overlook this.
Right. Thanks, panel. That applause means only one thing. A lot of people clapping in unison. And also, at the end of the show, and totalling up the scores, you'd have to be a complete Norman Lamont not to realise this week's clear winner is Tony Hawks. And, Tony... Right. It's taken you 6 weeks to win, and your prize is a copy of Madonna's new book with all the obscene bits cut out. So there you are. Okay, sit there as well then. All right, just time for me to thank our panel, Tony Hawks, Sandi Toksvig, Geoffrey Perkins and Frank Skinner. But I'll leave you with this question. In miners' rhyming slang, what is a Michael Heseltunt? Good night.